Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10 and support the channel at the same time. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. Another big week for the market as we're going to check in and see what's happening in the world of Standard, Modern, look at some vintage cards. Commander, though, maybe the big story of the week, as a lot of cards for Commander are heating up. We'll get into all of that. This is Protour Dominaria Weekend. Hopefully you have a chance to watch some of the events. At the time of recording, we've just been through the first day, so we'll see what happens over the rest of the weekend. I'm sure there will be more Standard spikes, and we'll be doing a special Market Watch video at the beginning of the week to track some of that. But for right now, we have a lot of other stuff to talk about. Quickly before we get started, though, just a fast reminder. If you check out the description below, you'll find a few ways to help support what we do here at the channel, one of which is our Patreon page. You're also going to find some links to products on Amazon. If you make any purchases on Amazon, it actually can be anything once you go through that link. We'll get a small percentage for the channel. Finally, Flipside Gaming still offering a promo code for our viewers, and they still have some of those exclusive Richard Kane Ferguson playmats. If you are a Commander fan or a fan of old school Legend art, you'll definitely want to check those out. With that being said, as always, thank you not only to the folks that check out those links, but to all the viewers. You all make the channel what it is, and let's get into it. We're going to begin with the top 5 Standard legal cards that have lost value this week. Number 5, Walking Ballista, down 92 cents to 1991. This might be surprising for some, especially if you've been watching the Pro Tour. You've seen some copies lurking around. It is in a lot of Standard decks right now. Red-Black Aggro, Constrictor, Blue-Black Midrange, White-Black Vehicles. It probably will have a good weekend. So if we see this showing up in some top 8 decks on Sunday, expect this to spike, even if it is just temporary. Could go up maybe to $25 or between $25 and $30 if it has a really good weekend. We'll have to wait and see. But all of that will be fleeting. Now, it does see play outside of Standard, actually in a number of decks. Modern, Green Red Tron, Counters Company, Amulet Titan, Legacy Eldrazi Stomp, Vintage, Ravager Shops even. So this card will have life after rotation, but a lot of Standard players have been keeping copies of this card for a long time. They'll be ready to liquidate probably a little bit after the core set comes out, and they start deciding on which decks they're going to play for that last Standard season before rotation. When that happens, people will start letting go of these cards. A lot of the sellers will be afraid to be stuck with extra inventory, the lower prices, and you're going to see this card probably at its best price that it may ever be at, quite honestly. Once that time passes, yes, it will slowly grow over time, at least until it gets reprinted, based on the play it's seeing outside of Standard. So this is definitely one to watch in the short term as well as the long term. Number 4, History of Benalia, down $1.18 to $19.95. Now, this is the first of 4 cards on our list. The top 4 cards are all from Dominaria. That shouldn't be too surprising. Even if they do see Standard play, basically a lot of packs are being opened right now. So as these players are getting the copies that they need to build their decks, the demand will start to wane a little bit as supply keeps going up, so this isn't unexpected. Now, this card, like many of the cards we're going to look at today, does see Standard play, even though it's going down in value. You'll find this in some control builds out of the boards, although a lot of the more popular builds are going really lean at creatures right now, just trying to win through other methods. But also, White-Black Vehicles will play this. Historic decks that are still kicking around is still seeing plenty of play. Number 3, Mox Amber, down $1.32 to $15.06. Okay, this one's a little different than most of the cards we're going to see on the list today, because this one really isn't seeing a whole lot of play. I've seen some people trying to figure it out in Standard. If you go on Magic Online, sometimes you'll run into like a paradoxical outcome deck running this. Or if you are looking at Modern, you'll find maybe an aggro deck here or there, White Aggro or Boros Aggro. But really nothing's taken off yet. I do think eventually someone will figure out something good to do with this card. It just might be a while. This continues to go down. Number 2, Lyra Dawnbringer, down $3.99 to $21.76. Another Mythic from Dominaria. Now, this one's crashing a little bit harder than some, and it's due to the fact that it's seeing less play in Standard than maybe it did over the first couple weeks, combined with the fact that more copies are getting out there. However, it's still seeing play in Standard. Again, some control decks might run this out of the board, although that is maybe not the most popular build right now. You'll find this in White-Black Vehicles, though, as well as historic decks and other places. Karn Scion of Urza, down $4.11 to $60.38. Now, you might be saying to yourself, Karn, down $4? I realize more packs are being opened, but really? I mean, he is everywhere. And yes, he is everywhere. Aggro decks, mid-range decks, vehicles decks, he's all over Standard right now. Some control builds as well. Modern, you're going to find him in Infinity decks out of the board typically right now. Legacy, Mono Red Prison, Steel Stompy, Eldrazi Stompy. Karn is quickly just showing up in more and more places. Now, with that being said, more packs are being opened, the price is stabilizing. This was a really, really high price for a brand new Mythic. But don't forget, the Pro Tour is going on this week. I have no doubt this Sunday we're going to see a lot of Karn in that top 8. Depending on how many copies of Karn are there, will probably influence how much he spikes. Because at this point for me, it's not a question of will he spike this weekend, it's just how much. I'm guessing, depending on how many copies, $70 to $75 is where Karn will be by Monday. We'll see what happens this weekend, of course, but I would expect the surge to occur and then over time slowly back down and snap back. Now, as more cards get out there in the marketplace, if you wait maybe a month or so, Karn will probably be much more affordable. Once you get to the mid to late summer, I'm thinking Karn settles in closer to $50. But this is a card that I don't think will ever be cheap, actually. All right, let's move on to the top 5 standard legal cards that have gained value this week. Number 5, Vraska Relic Seeker, up 50 cents to $8.99. This card's been falling pretty aggressively for a number of weeks now. Stabilizes and actually climbs quite a bit this week at 50 cents. So what's happening? Well, it is seeing some more play. Constrictor decks will run this. Sometimes green Stompy decks will run this out of the board because they do have Scrap Heap Scroungers, so they do need black for that, as well as the other sideboard cards that are control cards in black at times, like a Cast Down or Duress. So this does fit into some of those builds. Sultai Midrange will run this, and some others. So it is seeing some more play. We'll have to kind of see what happens this weekend. If it shows up in the top 8, it could surge a little more. Number 4, Siren Storm Tamer, up 63 cents to $2.26. This card is kind of interesting because it's an uncommon from Ixalan and it's aggressively increasing. There was a lot of buzz around this card going into the Pro Tour. A lot of people were hoping that the Pro Tour would be maybe a breakout weekend for the Wizard deck. As a matter of fact, Seth Manfield did an article on TCG Player where he talked about 2 decks he almost played at the Pro Tour. One of them was the Wizard deck. So you combine that with the fact that there are a lot of players trying to make it work on Magic Online. Maybe this is wishful thinking. We'll have to see how the weekend goes, of course. But this card does have a pretty big week. Number 3, Rezeketh, the Foul-Blooded, up 77 cents to $6. Couple things going on with this card. In the world of Standard, there are people trying to brew with it, trying to make it work either in a reanimation build or else in a mono black build. We'll have to see if that can get there. Who knows, maybe something will surprise us this weekend at the Pro Tour and have a good finish. But aside from that, in Commander, this card is very, very good. A lot of Commander players are using this now, especially in spikier decks. Number 2, Sorcerous Spyglass, up $1.21 this week to $5.75. This card has been extremely hot. This is the 3rd week it's been on our list. Not just because of the play at Season Standard. Usually you'll find this coming out of sideboards and some of the control builds, among some other places. But really what's got a lot of people's attention is the play it's seeing outside of Standard. Legacy, for example, in Eldrazi decks, as well as Mono Red Prison, Vintage in Ravager Shops, and Inferno Oath. This is definitely a card to watch. Number 1, Liliana Death's Majesty, up $1.45 to $12.34. This card has been undervalued for quite some time. It's just been quietly seeing play in Standard in various mid-range decks, Grixis Energy, Mono Black Control, among others. Now, the first day of the Pro Tour, this did get some good camera time, and I do think that contributed to this spike a little bit, considering that a lot of this happened over the last 24 hours. So this is a card that could perhaps have a big weekend. But regardless of what happens from this point forward in the Pro Tour, I do think it does retain some of this value, at least for a while, considering it was undervalued for quite some time now. Okay, we'll be returning to Standard early next week to see what kind of impact the Pro Tour has had on all these cards, so look out for that video. But for now, let's move on to the world of Modern and the top 5 Modern legal cards that have lost value this week. Number 5, Doubling Season from Modern Masters, down $2.48 to $58.49. No surprise here, this card is being reprinted in Battlebond, which comes out on Friday. It's going to be a Mythic there, but many Commander players have been waiting for this reprint for a long time, and now are getting an opportunity to pick up these cards maybe a little bit cheaper at least than they have been. Number 4, the original Cavern of Souls from Avacyn Restored, down $2.66 to $83.74. This card is still seeing play everywhere. Humans decks maybe most notably right now, but of course Elves decks in various formats. You find this in Eldrazi decks in various formats. I mean, it's all over the place basically. So it is snapping back a little bit because it was spiking very, very aggressively recently. It's just trying to find a normalized price point. I do think it goes down a little more, maybe settles in closer to $75, $80. Number 3, Liliana of the Veil, down 276 to 106.60. This is the Innistrad version. Now, Jund put up a better result this past weekend, so that did cut off some of the huge losses that these cards were seeing that were part of that deck. Now, this one's still going down, which, granted, is not really surprising because I do think the price point is still very high for this card. I could see it settling in closer to $95, assuming Jund can continue to do well. But even outside of Jund, especially in Legacy, this card does see play, so it will never completely bottom out or anything. Number 2, Twilight Mire, down 291 to 21.95. Now, this particular filter land doesn't see a whole lot of competitive play. Sometimes in Jund, maybe that's part of the reason it's a little soft right now. But the bigger reason is simply because it was reprinted recently in Masters 25. Number 1, Jace the Mind Sculptor. Wow, Masters 25, down $262 to $90. Eternal Masters, down $429 to $96. World Weight, down $513 to $117.84. Those are some pretty significant losses this week. Now, we know what's been going on with Jace. This isn't new news. We had the unbanning, and this card spiked super aggressively. And then people started figuring out how many copies of Jace they should play, what decks they should play him in. And once they realized, hey, Jace isn't broken in Modern. He's a good card, but not necessarily always amazing in decks. We started to see him settling into a normal price point. Nothing new here. What is kind of newer news, though, is the fact that Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, is actually replacing Jace in a lot of control decks, especially Jeskai builds. Now, Jace is not gone from Modern. I mean, there's still control decks that will play him, and Blue Moon decks and others. And, of course, he will always have a presence in Legacy, a little bit in Vintage, too. But, at least for right now, I wouldn't be shocked, unless something changes, to see Jace continue to drop. Maybe the Masters 25 could get down to around 80. Maybe Eternal Masters gets down to like 85. Maybe World Weight gets closer to 100. That would not shock me in the coming months. All right, let's move on to the top 5 Modern legal cards that have gained value this week. Now, Modern is a little slow right now. Modern had a couple months where it was insane, all the attention was on it. But Dominaria came out, people shifted their focus onto Standard, and also with Battlebond coming out, a lot of people are thinking about Commander. So a number of cards on our list today are actually more Commander cards than Modern cards. Number 5, however, is Mox Opal from Scars of Mirrodin, up 354 to 109.98. Okay, this is just getting ridiculous now. This card's on our list every week, and it's just going to keep going up till it gets a reprint. We know where it sees play. Say it with me now. Ironworks Combo, Lantern Control, Affinity, Steel Stompy, and Legacy. Yep, we say it every week. We'll probably be doing it again next week. Number 4, Hall of the Bandit Lord, up 364 to 25.85. This has been on our list for a few weeks now, not because it's a decent Commander card, which it is, but also because it is seeing play right now in a spicy Modern brew that's been circulating. And since we talked about it last weekend, more streamers have picked up on it. I even saw it on Magic Online. I do believe this might be our hot deck of the month for June. Now, in case you missed last week's episode, this is a combo deck that runs Vizier of Remedies and Devoted Druid, and this card fits very nicely into it. Can this deck put up a decent result and be more than just a hot deck of the month? Well, time will tell. Number 3, Hakan Stromgold Scourge. All right, this is up 367 this week to 749, and this is on here because of Commander play, not because of Modern. But it has been popular, at least over the course of the week, as a lot of Commander players are thinking about night builds, in particular how to make this card work with Josu. Number 2, Fiery Gambit, up 710 to 948. Huge percentage increase here. This is another card that is on the list because of Commander, not because of Modern. And in particular, it's here because it has the words Flip a Coin on it. We talked about this last week, but this Friday, Battlebond's going to come out with Zyndasplit and a Cone, which can be used jointly as a Commander. And if you want to build some crazy Is It Flip a Coin deck, you're going to want to pick up these cards. So because of this, though, and the anticipation for these being released this coming week, there are a lot of people gravitating towards various Flip a Coin cards. We saw some on our list last week. We're going to see more a little bit later in the video. Number 1, Thrumming Stone, up 1221 to 32.75. Another card that's been extremely hot due to Commander. Now, this card got hot initially because of the release of Rat Colony from Dominaria. And whenever you get one of those cards that comes out that kind of breaks the rule about how many cards you can have in your deck, of that type, then this card gets hot, and then it usually goes back down. Well, it started to go back down, but then on the Command Zone podcast, they talked about this card, not just with Rat Colony, but with Shadowborn Apostle. Spoiler alert, that card's coming up later too. And yes, it just reignited it all over again. I do think it will stabilize and come back down shortly, but at least for right now, it's over $30. Okay, let's move on to our Vintage Spotlight. Now, the buyouts have been cooling off a little bit, so good news there. We do have a few to look at today, and you're going to notice as we go through these price points, though, they are not as exaggerated as they have been. So we're going to do the same thing we've been doing for a number of weeks now. I'm going to show you what MTG Goldfish is telling me a card is doing, and then we're going to compare it to actual sales from eBay. So MTG Goldfish has been a little misleading recently with certain cards due to the fact that some people were manipulating the market. What they'll do is they'll buy out all the cheap copies of a card, then they'll take one copy listed on TCG Player typically for a really extremely high price, and that throws off the average values of the card. So sites like MTG Goldfish that read that type of thing, they get thrown off. People think the cards are worth a lot more than they are, and then those people that bought up all those cards sell them not for the extreme high price, but for something in the middle that's higher than the card really is worth. Now, if you go over to eBay, you can find what people are really paying for cards, and that's what I do here. So I look at sold and completed listings from the last 7 days, and I throw out any outliers. So I don't look at damage cards, I don't look at heavy played cards, I don't look at anything that is not English language because there could be different rarities there. I also look at sales that occurred in the United States so we don't get any crazy conversions thrown in there or anything. So once I kind of take everything that's left in the middle, I'll throw out like graded cards and stuff as well on the high end, then I will get an average price. So that's where the eBay price is coming from, in case you have any questions on that. But let's get into it and see what these cards are doing this week. We'll start off with Sonic Blast. We actually have a few cards from Unlimited on here yet again. More of the tail end of that Unlimited buyout we saw last week. This one, according to MTG Goldfish, is up $25.53 this week to $67.50. Is that for real? Well, if you go on eBay over the course of the last 7 days, you could have picked up this card for $27.78. So not actually that far off. I mean, obviously it's exaggerated a little bit on MTG Goldfish right now, but this card has gone up in value recently. Sarah Angel from Unlimited, up $25.56 to $49. Classic Magic card with the classic art. Is it really a $50 card though? Well, I looked on eBay. There were no sales of Unlimited Sarah Angels this week, unfortunately. So I went to TCG Player and looked at their market value, which is my default to look at. Now, they get the market value based on something similar to what I'm doing on eBay off of the cards that are selling on their site. However, I don't know all the details that go into that equation, so I try to use eBay first. In this case, though, it says $23.01. Feels like the price before the spike. Now, again, I don't know how they calculate their data. So if it's behind a little bit, who knows? This might actually be higher than $23. It might be closer to $50 right now. So this is another one to watch. It doesn't feel like this is aggressive market manipulation or anything like that. It just could be a trend based on current listings. Rafaelos Llanowar Emissary up $25.63 to $67.50. This is the first card that we're looking at today that's on the reserve list. Now, a few days back, Wedge from the Mana Source did a video highlighting some undervalued reserve list cards. This was one of them, so that was the catalyst for this spike. Now, there's some other cards that were on that video we're going to talk about a little bit later in the Commander section. Most of the cards were actually tied in with Commander. This one, of course, being banned in Commander, I put it on this list instead, but it does see a lot of casual playing cubes and such. The question is it really a $67 card? $15.10 this week on eBay, although you can definitely see the difference of the card prices before the video came out and after the video came out. Before the video, they were probably around $10. After the video, closer to $20. So they did create a little bit of an increase, although I would assume that's going to be temporary and probably scale back a little bit in the coming weeks. But the extra attention on cards will always make the market jump a little bit. But rest assured, this isn't up to $60, $70. Not yet, anyway. All right, Taiga from Unlimited, up $166.64 this week to $365.63. Now, dual lands, Unlimited ones, they do tend to be pretty swingy, so this isn't super out of the ordinary. This might not have anything to do with a buyout. In fact, I would guess it probably doesn't. But what are they selling on eBay? Well, couldn't find any copies sold this week. Had to default to TCG Player, which was $299.95. So actually pretty close, and if there's any lag in that TCG player market price, this could really be close to what MTG Goldfish said it was. Okay, another reserve list card like Taiga. This is Force Field up 207.54, 2422.75. Good 93.94 format card. This has been bouncing all over the place. Is it really over $400 though? $315 on eBay, and I'll tell you, I only could find one sale, so this is just based on one sale. Not a lot of data points. So, could it go for maybe $350 on a good day? Yeah, probably. So again, it's really not all that far off from what it's saying on MTG Goldfish. Finally, the Abyss of $314.97 to $1,199.95. Yikes, this card has really increased. Is it really a $1,200 card though? $875. But I will tell you, there were only 2 sales this week on eBay, so this is the average of those 2 sales. And you know what? On a good day, maybe this could go for like $1,200 or so. Kind of crazy, but MTG Goldfish was at least real close on this one. Okay, back to reality with our Commander Spotlight, some cards that maybe we can actually afford. We'll start off with Stitch in Time, up $1.69 to $5.97. So nice increase for this card, again, because it has the words Flip a Coin on it. Here's another Flip a Coin card, Kaplusin Minotaur. This one's up $2.52 to $3.93 this week. Okay, I promised we see Shadowborn Apostle. Here it is, up $2.92 to $5.60. Very strong week, especially percentage-wise for this card. Again, tied in with Thrumming Stone. Goblin Bomb, up $3.99 to $10.95 this week. Now, this one is on the reserve list. That might help it hold some value a little bit compared to some of the other cards we're looking at today. But, again, this is another Flip a Coin card. Crystal Quarry, up $7.14 to $11.88. This card's been pretty hot ever since Joda came out with Dominaria. However, the reason it's going up this week is because we saw a preview card from Core Set 2019, which comes out this July, and that's Apex of Power. I talked about it in a video a few days ago, so I'll link that at the end of this one in case you want more information. But long story short, it's a powerful card with a real strong effect, but a high casting cost. So some people in the world of Commander are thinking, well, maybe they can use Joda in this to get it out a little bit quicker. Okay, the next 3 cards we're going to look at are all reserve list cards, are all good Commander cards. They were all featured in Wedge's video. So there's a lot of attention on them this week. I'd probably wait a couple weeks before I go and try to buy one of these just because of the extra eyes on the cards right now. But this one, City of Solitude, is up $15.44 to $26.49. Then we have Thawing Glaciers up $17.57 this week to $35. And finally, Peacekeeper, up $27.42 to $43. Let's end things with a Pauper Spotlight card. There was one card that jumped out at me that I thought was at least worth mentioning. It was Muldrifter. 3 copies of this card moving quite aggressively percentage-wise. Commander 2014 going up 33 cents to $2.35. Lorwyn going up 35 cents to $1.87. Commander going up 39 cents to $2.50. This is a Pauper staple. You'll find it in many, many builds now. Alright, with that being said, that is our market watch for this week, and I will be back early next week to talk about the impact the Pro Tour has had on Standard. I'm expecting to see some pretty big spikes over the next 48 hours or so. But until then, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.